encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. First came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, wait for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence, wait for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then the people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the parousia in the fellowship clouds. Now we know how to break that silent sound. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. The sound of silence broken by you and me. The silence for 40 years following 70 AD. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Gives testimony and kingdom glee. For the master himself descended from the Shemam with a shout, with the voice of the chief heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds, and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. First came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, wait for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence, wait for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then the people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the parousia in the fellowship clouds. Now we know how to break that silent sound. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. The sound of silence broken by you and me. The silence for 40 years following 70 AD. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Gives testimony and kingdom glee. For the master himself descended from the Shemam with a shout, with the voice of the chief heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds, and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation was seized away. Away come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Oh, every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then are people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the parousia in the fellowship clouds. Now we know how to break that silent sound. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. The sound of silence broken by you and me. The silence for 40 years following 70 AD. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Gives testimony and kingdom glee. For the master himself descended from the Shemaim with a shout, with the voice of the chief heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds, and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation was seized away. Away come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Oh, first came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation was seized away. Away come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Oh, every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40.
Yeah, man. Bonjour.
Boker
Bonjour.
Tov. Boker Tov.
Bonjour.
I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed today, ready to go.
Yeah, well, it must be the black background because
you said to keep it, so we're keeping it.
you're more fired up with the black
I think
than
so.
with the white.
Got that little contrast going on, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
How are you feeling today, my friend?
Well, I'm all right. I mean, I got life is, but we got to learn to subdue the highs and elevate the lows. Kind of reach a balance. So
Smooth it out. Smooth it out.
yeah, like I used to say, better than most, worse than some, worse than most, better, one of those deals. Hey, before I forget, because I'm going to toss it to you, because you were highly impressed with last Shabbat's message. Okay, before we get into other things. But before we get into your impressions, I want to remind everybody, and this is not sales or manipulation or anything of the sort. We have room for 50 folks. We rented a beautiful conference room in Amelia Island. It's all set. We're all set aside, and we have 15 rooms in the hotel reserve. So I'm going to be calling and reserve my rooms. Um, Once that 15 rooms are gone, they're gone. And once we reach 50, and just between New Kingdom, Arizona, and New Kingdom, Florida, and David's group, so we should hit like 25 running. So I would really encourage everybody not to wait and register. We'll worry about the cost later or take up an offering. We really don't care at this point. We just want to meet you and get this thing going. So please call that number on your screen.
Yes.
We'll leave it up for a few minutes. A number on your screen, email, and speak to David. Just register. Say, I'm bringing 5, I'm bringing 3, I'm bringing an elder, 2 elders, a musician, a worship, just so we have a good idea. And then as we get close to 50, we'll let everybody know. But don't delay, because there's no financial outlay at this point. We will ask you to help us cover the costs, whether it's a fee at the door, whether it's an offering, and just trust Yahuwah. We don't know and we don't care. We know because we know Yahuwah is going to provide. But
Always does.
Always does. But main thing is to get registered. That's the main thing.
Yep, that's the main thing. The main thing is to let us know of your intention. Even though things can change between now and then, just keep us in the loop. And we understand that this is early yet, but we want to get a really good feel for what we can expect, and with some fluidity, with some wine skin, right? We got a little wine skin room, but we still need to have a pretty good idea. So thank you for those of you who
and if you're not sure if you're going to attend, please don't write, because we're going to cut it off. We have to cut it off at around 50, maybe 55, but just if you're not sure, be sure before you phone in or email. And let us know how many.
Yes.
Let us know how many you're bringing. So go ahead, Apostle Peter. Again, it's good to see you. And
it is so good to see you, my friend. After last Shabbat, I was just so very, very, very impressed. I almost called you, and I thought, oh gosh, I can't bother the poor man on Shabbat. But I did write you a note right after the service was completed. I don't often get a chance to watch the full thing live. So a lot of times because of where our services sort of overlap, and then I have time that I spend, kind of with my own people, that I usually catch only a small portion, or have to back up and all that. So this, I happen to catch a lot of, I think all of your service this last Shabbat. And I have to tell you, I was so very impressed and so very blessed by sitting in. It takes a while, folks, to get used to the translation thing, because you're not used to that. We take for granted that we speak English, and that we assume everyone else does, and we suddenly become aware of the fact that we're in an international place when we tune in. And so that is actually a really good thing for us to remember. That we have to be respectful to people outside of our circles, if you will. And I have to say, I was very, very thankful for your thoroughness. And I've, again, you've gone a lot of episodes on the topic of the Parousia on the 70 AD. Advent, and this is something that was due, but it was definitely a topic that would ruffle a lot of feathers, because I hate to break it to Tim LaHaye, but you were all left behind. Everybody. Okay. And so the whole concept got shattered by the truth. And so I don't know how much of that we'll talk about today, but I just wanted to tell you thank you for your faithfulness. And, you are very kind and very affirming to our house when we bring things that are breakthrough things. And I just am so thankful that you had the courage to sit through this. And that's what you had to do. When you first talked to me about it, I had no idea you were going to go to this length. And boy, am I ever glad you did.
Thank
Because
you.
I think that people needed the sit. It wasn't the information dump they needed the sit. They needed the time to
That's right.
process.
That's right. They put in so much. They put in so much time listening to false
Yeah.
and end time scenarios that it was required, like you said, to force them to sit and begin to take an investment in the
Yeah.
truth, because they've already invested in all kind of scenarios de joie, and they range from Mickey Mouse, coming down on a yellow submarine, to Khrushchev being resurrected from the dead. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And, we laugh because we don't know what else to do. But Yahuwah is sore displeased with all this guesswork. He didn't give his word so we could engage in caricature and cartoonish guesswork. One out of every 26 verses in the scriptures is about eschatology. And you have no kingdom without eschatology. You have no marriage supper without eschatology. You have no judgment, white throne judgment. That judgment was rendered and is applicable to the ages, and it's recurring to everybody who's born based on the verdict of that judgment at the end of the age. So when you just say eschaton's not important, and what about what about the resurrection? The resurrection is tied in directly to the return. So our hope is in the resurrection. And so the resurrection is vital, and it's all part of the eschaton. It's actually part of soteriology, because the spirit or the soul was redeemed in 30. But scripture makes it clear we're awaiting. We were waiting for the redemption of our body, which means the full redemption was not complete. The atonement was complete.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
This is critical. Listen to this, guys. Go ahead.
That's it. That's basically
the atonement was complete.
Right.
However, we had yet to endure a season. And then when that season was completed, that's when the redemption of the body. Now, what was deafening? I don't remember the title. I was trying desperately to remember the title that you gave. I remember the word silence, of course, but I don't remember
silence or the sounds.
The sound of silence. I thought of the indictment of silence was what hit me. The indictment of the silence. How that we went from preaching our faces off to the point of facing death. And I mean, we being the first century believers, right? And the saints that were in the household of faith at that time, and the level of persecution, the level of straight up, we're coming to kill you, that they had to endure, was unprecedented. There's just no other word for it. And then you have all of this occur, everything that's recorded, and we're supposed to buy. Listen to this, folks, that there was 40 years of no evangelists, no apostles, no prophets, no evangelists, no teachers, no pastors, nobody preaching, nobody shutting things down, nobody declaring the word of Yahuwah for 40 years.
Correct. It's amazing.
We're supposed to just buy that.
Right. And from 30, when the kingdom rule began in 30, Shavuot, until 66, when the Jewish war against the Romans started, the intensity and the proliferation of apostolic, evangelistic activity
was intense.
Not only was it intense, there were not books, and there were not enough books in the world. To record everything Bartholomew did, to record everything Thomas did. He went to India, and that's about it. There was not enough books to record the intensity. Everyone was evangelizing someone. Parents were evangelizing their children. Children were evangelizing their cousins. It was profoundly, and matter of fact, Acts chapter 6 says that most of the fake Kohanim, it uses the word many, but that could easily be translated most. Listen to this, Peter. Most of the fake Kohanim who are not Zadokites embrace the Emunah. And then all of a sudden, there is no documents, no recordings, no debating, no activity, nothing.
The indictment of silence.
If we believe the scriptures, 1 Thessalonians 4, see, we make fun of the rapture because the rapture was given to us as a cartoon.
Right.
There is no rapture, but there was a catching away. So between the complete apostasy, right, which means 5 in a town are left, 2 in a town are left. I mean, complete.
Right.
It was a complete apostasy. Now, add to that the snatching away, add to that the resurrection, and that's why you have no documentation. Now, he told the believers that would be alive in 70 AD, he said, run to Judea, right? But out of the 12 apostles, there was no one left to run except John. And John was not in Jerusalem. So the ones that he was telling to run were so they would run and not be killed, and that they would be changed. The ones who ran from Judea were changed into the spirit realm. It's a different realm. It's an entirely different realm.
It's a door that you once it closes, you can knock all you want. You can say, open unto us.
Yeah.
And it won't matter.
Mm-hmm. But let me throw something.
While we continue to put that door in the future, we got confused. Go ahead, brother.
Let me say something before I forget. So people say, and you've heard this, and you probably will hear it some more. All the writings of the church fathers, Justin
Martyr,
Subius, Jerome. Nobody mentions the second coming. Nobody mentions people being snatched from the earth. Everything is future, future, future. I'll stop right there. Let's all, everybody around the world, I'll stop right there, right? Here's my question. Who are the so-called church fathers? Now, I'm not about to diss on them. Follow me? Just the opposite. The church fathers, or the Kehillah fathers, yes, were the 12. And the 12 were martyred or died naturally, and they were raised in 70 AD. Did the church fathers believe that Yahusha would come back in that century, in their lifetime? They absolutely did. So here's what the devil did. He got the people to believe that the church fathers are the guys that came in the Middle Ages, in the 200s, 400s, 600s, right? But the true fathers, like Kepha, like Sholiach Shaul, they were martyred or died before 70 AD. Thus, they were raised and changed. The living were changed. Thus, did the original, and forgive me for using this term because I even hate the term, did the original church fathers believe in the future coming of Yahusha? Absolutely not. They believed it was in their lifetime. Now, in Philippians, and I saw this the other day, I think I may still have it to you. Can I read this to you?
For sure, of course.
Actually, I'm gonna do better than that, and I challenge anybody. And I do, if I can find it, and I challenge anybody to do their homework. You see it? You see that, Peter?
I see the thing on the screen. Yes, I'm reading it quickly.
Yes. Okay. So let me put it here so there's a bit more visible. No, that might be okay, because I just don't want the thing in the corner to block it. Can you read it through that blockage?
No,
I can't.
Read.
Okay, so then let me try this. No, that won't work. Yeah. Okay, well, let me read it so folks can. That's not going to work.
We'll just read it.
Okay, now I got it.
Yeah.
Now all right, so let's just read this together. Now, this is what Philippians want. This is what the futurists did. And we all know the translators of the scriptures were all futurists. So I looked into the Greek, and here's what it says. I am hard pressed between the two choices. and the King James says betwixt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have an intense desire to finish my course, to meet the master at his return. In other words, Shaliach Shaul expected himself in his lifetime to meet the master at his return
Mm-hmm.
and be with him at his return forever, which is far better. Now, how do I get that leap? I'm going to tell you. The word analo, which is the root Greek 360, occurs twice in the Brit Chadashah. Yet, its placement in two strategically different settings provides a window into the believer's hope and watchfulness. In Philippian, it voices the believer's longing to depart to be with Messiah as if he's not returning. In other words, the traditional interpretation is that Paul is longing to be with Messiah, stop, right? Full stop. But that same word in Luke 12:36, when Luke speaks about the wedding, which you often speak about the wedding and getting in without a garment, the word anolo is to return from and to the wedding banquet. So the only other time this is used, it says that when the master returns to the wedding, when the Son of Man returns to the wedding to marry his bride. So in Luke 12:36, that word is when the Son of Man returns, analo. All of a sudden in Philippians 1:23, it doesn't mean return. But if we're consistent and it means to return, so now we have the correct interpretation. I have an intense desire to finish my course, to meet the master at his return, i.e. the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't mean different things.
No.
It's one word that means the same thing in because this is a wedding backdrop, and this is a wedding backdrop when the believer goes to meet the master at his return. Because when does the wedding take place? At the master's return.
Right. So
Same
here
word.
we are,
Same word.
2,000 years later, and you have again the same puppeteers have been telling, and this started again 40, 50 years later. We're told that they went to sleep and were left there, and that their hope was left, and that we're still waiting. That's the line. That's the common line being told, and we all bought it. I bought it. You bought it. We all bought it until we checked, and then as we began to check, we began to go, wait a minute, that doesn't match.
Yep.
Something's wrong here with the story.
Yep.
And we're coming at this from different angles. Nowadays, this conversation is a little different conversation because we're post, certain things. There's certain things that have come out in our time period that have helped the common person go, wait a minute, there are some things back there that we are all realizing they lied to us about.
And remember what I was telling you on Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
That no man has gone up into heaven. That held true until Messiah came. No man had gone up into heaven except Enoch and Elijah. So that means the 12 gates were shut. So
that's right.
Yahusha had to come and he had to return so that henceforth those who were waiting would not receive their perfection and glorification without us. So in other words, the gates were opened at a certain point in time, which was 70 AD. So why is it important? And let me also add, just because I've done 60 parts, I can tell you in the Ruach that every part is different. Just because I label it understanding Messiah's words concerning the second coming, they could be a playlist in themselves. Everyone is a different angle, and it could be their own playlist. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want everybody to think it's the same topic. This topic is so intense. Think about that. I want everybody listening to think. If Yahusha had not returned, then the gates of the New Jerusalem are closed. The new heaven and earth is future. And if the new heaven and earth is future, guess what? We're going to sleep just like we always thought we were going to sleep, right? We're going to go to sleep and we're going to wait for the return. But the gates have been opened. You think this is important? Does anybody think this is important? It gives you not just a hope, right, Apostle Peter? It gives you a blessed hope. There's one thing to hope. There's one thing to hope that you're going to sleep and Messiah is going to wake you up one day, right? Right? But it's a blessed hope to realize, no, to be absent from the body, you go straight through the 12 open gates. Those gates were opened at his return. Without his return, it says, no man will go to heaven until the resurrection. And it says in Hebrews 11 very clearly that all the heroes of our faith, right? Enoch, I don't care what your name, all the heroes of our faith were not made perfect. Why? Because Yahuwah was waiting to send his son back so that they, without us, should not be made perfect. Wow.
It was always about the blood. It was always about the lamb. It was always about the redemption. I think about the prophetess who saw Anna, who saw the coming, and saw it then, and had trusted in Yahuwah. The community in Qumran was alive and expecting any minute. They had timed certain things correctly. They were right about their discernment about the day they were in.
That's right.
And that was proved out. And so there are several things that I want to point out. One of them is the Revelation 8 altar. The Revelation 8 altar.
6? Okay. We're talking about 6 or 8?
I believe it's in Revelation 8. Is it in Revelation 8? Let me double check.
You mean the martyrs?
Let me double check, but hold on. I don't like to have the wrong reference. Then people start to discount things. So let's take a look real quick.
Yeah. Of course, in Revelation 6, we have the altar with the martyrs.
I was right. I was correct. It was Revelation 8. I just wanted to make sure, but it was Revelation 8.
Okay.
And 7 angels stood before Yahuwah Eloah Hayam. They were given 7 trumpets. Another came and stood at the altar. So Revelation 8 has the altar right there.
Gotcha.
And having a golden censer, and there was given him much incense that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. Right. So the golden altar before the throne. What's before the throne? What's before the throne, everyone? I just want to clarify this, because this is like the other side of the line. So there's a line on earth and there's a line in heaven. And as in earth, so in heaven. Amen. And so I just wanted to note that there's a line, like a phone line. And there's the other side of this line tethered right in front of the throne. Does that say what I think it says? Does it say right in front of the throne? So we look at the record, the historical record. Not only do we see a river of blood, a horrible river of blood, but we also see that the great falling away, the great pressure,
apostasy,
the great thlipsis that occurred was unprecedented. And the reason why I say I'm thankful that we got to watch and read that, because today, if that same thlipsis were to come on this generation, I don't think we have the same, even close to percentages. And it was a near wipeout then.
True.
With the level of persecution, the level of murder, straight murder that occurred up to 70 AD.
And it was so intense.
Straight murder, guys. Straight kill you was okay. With impunity, people could kill.
Apostle Peter was so intense that, remember, this was recorded by Moshe in the Torah in Deuteronomy 32, when the Roman eagle would break down the walled city. Okay? There was no walled city at that time. It would be so intense that the women would be eating their children. And Moses called it the terminal generation. So, like you said, it was a once in the history of man event that it's clearly referenced in the Torah, in Deuteronomy 28 and in Deuteronomy 32. And a lot of those curses are related to Yahuwah's judgment on Babylon, end time Babylon, which is Jerusalem. And by the way, those of you who think that Jerusalem is not the end time Babylon, let me ask you a question. Which of the Old Testament prophets did the Roman Catholic Church kill? 0. Which of the Old Testament prophets did the United States kill? 0. Whenever it's not identified and you have the generic term, the prophets, it always refers to the prophets of the Tanakh. Jerusalem was full of the blood. If you read Matthew 23, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does Matthew 23 say? Upon what? This generation
Yep.
will come the blood.
All the blood of all the prophets. That's right.
All the prophets. So Yahusha tells you, and he begins Matthew 23 with what? Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem.
Oh, the inference of the futurist is that he doesn't keep his promises. That's just the straight up inference. And it is the undermining of your faith. Look, even if you just take a look at the modern era, from 1600, just take that time period to the present, we have watched one rug pull after another that has been deliberately intended to mass manipulate. They got into serious government or mind control. That's what the word government means. Mental, govern, obviously, to control. So government became very important to certain people. Now, I believe it's because their gig was up and their truth was coming out and people were doing their homework and figuring out they were being lied to. Whenever that happens, they do a wipeout and kill a bunch of folks. Okay. But the Revelation 8 altar is there. And he says, lift up you gates and you lift up your head, O ye gates, and you everlasting doors. And for the King of Kavod will come in. And so we presumed, because of the foolish virgin problem, that he just hold the door open indefinitely, right? That particular door, the one that we're talking about. But again, if you weren't there, you weren't there. If you weren't born, you weren't born. If you weren't chosen for that time period, you weren't there. That's like being upset that you weren't there to see Joshua come into the land of Canaan. It's a historical event that occurred. You can read it, you can understand it. You weren't there. In the same way, we have to take into consideration now, we have to process where we are really versus where we imagined ourselves to be. And one of the biggest problems that comes in from that is the readjustment of all of the things that you thought were yet future that are now behind you. And it is one of the worst forms of gaslighting. It is narcissistic gaslighting on steroids to have done this to an entire generation. Now, who did this? Who did this? Well, I mean, let's be blunt. Foolish virgins did. Because who was left behind? Not only that, but you have 2 generations, I think 40 years, you're looking at least children and then grandchildren and maybe even great-grandchildren. Okay? And you know how the zigzag works. The children of preachers, what do they usually end up like? Okay? Children of preachers, they usually zag the other way. Yeah. So their children start picking it up. And you can't deny it. I'm sorry. There's just no way to go around it. Nothing happened until finally around 11 or 110. I think we start to see reemergence. It's almost like, well, they disappeared. They're not coming back. Okay. Right. Like they're all processing what happened. They don't know what to do about it. Right. And so finally enough time has passed that they're just like, well,
must be future.
Start pushing future.
Must be
and
future.
Without knowing what they were doing, they set up the new momentum of the quote church age. And like you said, set up the Christian Talmud. Right. So now we got the oaths and the creeds and we're not going to talk about this stuff. We're going this way.
Yeah.
And so what happens? You end up with another form of government, governing of the mind, or Nicolaitan, conquerors of the people, okay, which he hates. So this is the ultimate Nicolaitan move. Ultimate. He's straight up. I don't care what else you called Nicolaitans. I don't care who else you called Nicolaitans. I don't care who else you have called that name. I'm telling you, nobody is more guilty than the people who made something that was in the past in the future.
And this is what you have right here. Bingo, bingo, home run. In her, in Mystery Babylon, End Time Babylon, was found the blood of the prophets, the saints, and all that were slain. In other words, Yahusha's apostle, Yahusha's prophet, and the blood. So Yahusha tells it. He timestamps it. He says, all this blood will be required of this generation, meaning the judgment that is to come will be in this generation.
That's right.
So that the Jewish war against Rome and Yahusha's coming, it was in that generation, not in a future generation. Now, they tried to twist that word generation that it could mean in this type of human race or among these kind of people. No, that's a different word, and I don't want to get into it now. Gene,
No. Here's the thing, guys. It's really easy. It's all about seed time and harvest now. Manoah called it out. He's the earth will now stay in its cycles. The interruption of the cycles of earth has ended. Mm-hmm. The judgment against the wicked that were trying to control earth is over. Now it is operating as it's supposed to. Watch this now, because there's a lot of people that don't get it. They think, well, why are all these things here? Why are all these things still on the earth? Where does he have to beat swords into plowshares? Where does he have to do that? In your heart.
That's right.
And you have to change. It is not something that's going to come from President Donald Trump. It's not going to come from the EU. It's not something that's going to come because somebody passed an edict or some great man of God, as they like to say, stands up and says, everybody be nice. No, it's going to come because we have it written in our heart and mind.
And here's another thing that we have to revisit just briefly. We revisited this before. People say when the Messiah comes, there'll be peace on earth, goodwill toward men. The lion will lie down with the lamb. The snake will play with the goats. Blah blah blah. Okay, when your premise is wrong, your conclusion is wrong. Correct.
Right. Correct.
Okay. If we go, what's the end of the truth? The end of the truth is Revelation 22. Outside paradise, the Garden of Eden, paradise, heaven, Yahusha's home, the many mansions where we're going, right?
Right.
Outside are murderers, idolaters, thieves, whores, liars, and everyone who loves lies and makes lies a living. So you have been taught that when Messiah comes, there will be peace on earth. Now you come to find out through people like Apostle Peter and myself, there is no peace, saith my Yahuwah, to the wicked, and he's not coming to refurbish the earth. He made a way to get you inside the gates. Now, inside the gates, right? The lion will lie down with the lamb, right? We will beat our swords into plowshares.
Where?
Inside the gates. Or what is the preparation for those gates, Peter? It is the assembly.
Listen,
the kingdom is not
there's
just
so
in you.
much here that I'm going to unpack for you
The kingdom
folks.
is not just in you, right? The
That's
kingdom
right.
is the assembly waiting to be promoted like they were in the first century. But
And
right
you
now,
have
the only
to
kingdom,
harken back to that. Come on,
the only
folks.
kingdom you're going to see, guys, the only kingdom you're going to see is the assembly.
That's right.
Until you graduate to the Zion that is above, the first gathering of the firstborn on the true Mount Zion. You will be there one day, but not if you're in this assembly. So if
You can't handle the footman, you ain't going to run with the horses.
Yeah.
You can't handle the footman. You can't handle simple things on earth as it is in heaven. You're supposed to be praying a daily prayer.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody may say, where is the kingdom?
I'm just saying, don't pretend that we don't all know this. Right? Don't all pretend we don't know this, that we are going through this process as a testing, right? So first of all, we finally found our topic for today, by the way, guys. Here's our topic for today.
You think?
You ready? Here's our topic. Our topic for today is how that in the garden, while earth was good, earth was already good. Everybody, yes, earth was good. He declared it good. Why make a garden then? I'll show you why. You guys, we're going to unpack this year. It's going to take us a year, another 50 episodes.
Hallelujah.
The garden was an area it had a perimeter. It could be guarded. It could be kept. And in order for it to be kept, it had to have a perimeter. It had to have a boundary. It had to have a limitation. It had to have a restriction. Okay. Here in good everywhere. And he says, I'm making a garden for the set apart.
Correct.
Right. And when you go into that covenant place, because that's a place of the covenant.
That's right.
Okay. The place of the kavod of Yahuwah, you had freedom. You may eat freely. He said, freely you may eat of all the trees of the garden, but that tree there isn't yours. You touch that one, you exit. You learned right then and there how not to touch that which does not belong to you. It's theft. Okay, that tree, he said, is his. He put it there. It's his tree. Don't touch it. He left it in your midst on purpose. He keeps doing that.
That's right.
He keeps putting things in your hands that are accursed things, and he wants you to learn how to handle the accursed thing and take it where it belongs, like getting rid of toxic waste, right? Okay, so your covenant put a boundary, yet you experience freedom. I know, dichotomy. And then when we left under Adam, right? The first Adam, when we left this boundary, we ended up in bondage. Wait a minute. This is the grand paradox, okay? Because you think that you're going to have freedom where there are no rules. But what you have is abyss or chaos or Genesis 1:2. Nothing, okay? That's what happens when you have lawlessness. You have nothing. Because law is required to tell the border of a body, this is the end of it, stop here. Law is required to tell the ocean this far, no further. Law is required. So if you go lawless, you got nothing. Okay. So they left the boundaries and they ended up in bondage. They're inside of boundaries and they end up in freedom. Where do we see this also? Well, the very same thing. I'm coming in for a landing. Give me one more minute. The same thing we see with Mashiach and the bride. He uses the picture in Ephesians of a husband and wife. Why? Because inside of covenant is where your freedom is. Outside of covenant, everything you try to do, you can get in trouble for. Okay? You can get into so much trouble outside of covenant. But inside covenant, you're married and you're inside of covenant? It's nobody's business what you do.
Blessing.
Outside of covenant, you could get stoned for what you do. You seeing what I'm saying? The difference.
100%. Yeah.
The covenant element and how it allowed freedom here, you get stoned over here. So the point I'm making is this grand paradox has been in the earth from the beginning.
From the beginning.
And the lie has been, get rid of law, therefore you get free. And what they have not figured out all this time, 6,000 years or whatever it's been, okay, of the same nonsense, because they keep missing the message, the paradox, that freedom is within the walls.
That's right. As is peace.
Within the walls. You want the
shalom.
You want the tree of the knowledge, or I'm sorry, the tree of life in the walls. You want the sword beat to the plowshares in the walls.
Assembly is a rehearsal
in the walls. You want to commune with Yahuwah inside the walls. You want to learn the things of the kingdom inside the walls. You want to do anything in the kingdom inside the walls. So everybody that thought, I don't want no walls, I don't know.
And inside the walls, inside the assembly, which is the rehearsal.
Come on, somebody.
Colossians 2. The Kehillah that is rehearsing the Moadim, we are rehearsing, those inside the walls are rehearsing for inside the walls of the New Jerusalem. Here's a question for you. Everything you just said is 10,000% not only correct, but insightful. Now, I got to nail this cat to the cross. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All y'all
Smoke of
gonna
the
keep
incense is coming up today,
like
folks. The smoke of the incense.
brother Martinez says, you've been gaslighted. And here's the gaslighting, the big time gaslighting. When Mashiach returns, there will be peace on earth. And you know what my response is? Says who?
Where's the verse?
Because the book ends. Does everybody agree that Revelation 22 is the end of
It ended.
supposedly the end of the account? Okay, fair enough. So it says there'll be the same garbage going on outside the New Jerusalem as there is today. So you've been gaslighted by believing that there will be peace on earth. Read my lips, sweetheart. Read my lips, Bubba. There will never be peace on earth. So what is it? So that means we're hopeless, right? Wrong. You've got to come in with the wedding garment into where he is. There's not going to be a remake or a refurbishing of this mess. Okay? So, Peter, that is the poison. That is the guess.
That happened in the. This is the same kind.
If you interview 100 believers, 99.9 will believe that when Messiah returns, there'll be peace on earth. The fact that there's no peace on earth proves that Messiah has not returned. So if your premise is wrong, what's going to happen to your conclusion?
They're all
He
wrong.
didn't return. He didn't
They're
return.
all wrong.
Why? Because if he had returned, there would be what? No more war and peace on earth.
There is
Now,
peace
the
on earth.
gaslighter
It's
said
inside the
that.
covenant, and it's inside
The
of the garden. Are
the
you inside the garden?
Yes. The gaslighter said that. Yahuwah Sevaot never said that. The gaslighter said that.
That's right. And
How you like me now?
I love
How you like
And
me now?
Genesis, he has predicted it in Isaiah 46:10. He called the end from the beginning. While the earth was good, he puts a garden. He says, "Yup, I already know what's happening." And guess what? He put his man there. That's where he puts the tree of life. Now, man falls, has to leave. What have we been trying to do this entire time? Get back. Get back where? Inside the walls. We've been trying to get back inside the walls where we realized, wow, we should never have left. Like, what were we thinking, right? We disobeyed the commandments, we being all of Adam's children, right? So let's just I mean that in the general sense. Mankind, right? So we all sinned in Adam, all sinned according to the scripture. So we were all victims of this same bad choice. So that's why we get to hop on the wise choice of the wise son, because through one man, sin entered into the world. Therefore, that same logic, if you will, or legal precedent was used to give us a way of escape.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean, watch this now, that outside the garden, it's now all cleaned up? No, it has a purpose. Its purpose is sorting out fakes, phonies, liars, Judases, all kinds of processes, so that by the time somebody actually makes it to the assembly, to the Kehillah, to be part of the household of faith, they had to go through so much vortex. They had to be so dedicated. They had gone through so many siftings and sortings that if they're there still, they got to be either a little bit cuckoo or truly set apart.
Bingo.
And what he said, you had to be a fool for Mashiach. You had to be willing to look cuckoo. You had to be willing to go crazy for him. Why? Because you're auditioning. It's like auditioning for, it's like auditioning for Noah's Ark, okay? And you're the third monkey on the ramp. I mean, you better fight like you the third monkey. You better get that spot, right? Now all of a sudden running your race made more sense. Now all of a sudden, watch this, okay? Laying your life down for your brother suddenly made a lot more sense. It wasn't just a platitude, man. It might literally cost you your life to cover your brother's retreat. And it might mean you die, like Zacharias had to die to cover the retreat of his wife and his son.
Yeah, I want to address the Christians who are going to be watching this broadcast in the future.
Whew.
You believe
Fire.
you believe that the Messiah has not returned because there's no peace on earth, and I'm telling you, you've been gaslighted. So my
Big
question,
time.
my question to those folks is, if that is true and Messiah's return is in the future, how does that make you as a Christian or as a Nazarim different than the unbelieving Jews? They don't
Nothing.
believe that. You know why they don't believe he came first or second time? Because there's no peace on earth. That puts you in their boat, not in Noah's Ark. That doesn't put you in the kingdom. That doesn't put you in Noah's Ark. That puts you in their boat.
Oh, put you in Aiken's boat. They keep thinking that this is all about natural things. It's all about the natural world. It's all about natural benefits and all natural prosperities and all that stuff. You keep getting fooled by the same thing Aiken got fooled by. It's about honor. It's about passing tests of honor. This entire experience is all about honor. You all get the same exact 24 hours a day. Nobody gets more. So the people that are honoring him are using the same 24 hours. They're not using a special 24 hours. They don't get an extra day in the week. Okay. Here's another one for you, folks. I know I'm on a soapbox, but stay with me, brother.
Oh, please.
There is no do-overs
You're
either.
fired up. I love it.
This whole do-over mentality has invaded the household of faith. And as a result of that, people continue to do very poor in everything they do. Because if you believe, oh, I'll make up for it, or if you believe, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or if you believe, oh, I can somehow have a do-over, you will never process present moments with excellence. It is only those people who understand that their moment is given them once and once only. And you have to become good at today.
No kingdom mulligans.
No such. As a matter of fact, it's funny you should bring that up. I was talking to Evangelist David about this, and I became nearly a scratch golfer. And you know, one of the things that occurred that I had to do that, I had to stop doing mulligans. Mulligans had me up in the 90s. I was hitting up in the 90s and sometimes didn't even break 100 until I got rid of the mulligan. When I got rid of the mulligan, I had some horrible rounds. But you know what started happening? Accountability. I started having to hit the ball right the first time. I didn't get to drop another ball. And if it went in the woods, I had to live with that. And I had to take a penalty shot. And I'll tell you what, after a while, you get tired of looking for your ball in the woods. You start practicing better and you hit the ball straight. All because you quit giving yourself a mulligan. I won 3 tournaments in 2018, 3 of them, and they miscast me because I was already a certain age and they were supposed to put me with the old guys. But I didn't say anything because I looked young.
You mean you didn't hit off the short tee? They the ladies.
Nah,
tee?
man, they put me with the kids, and I took 3 of the trophies and came in second twice. So I'm only telling you this stuff, guys. Which, by the way, I lost a bunch of. I didn't make any friends. It was the most worthless waste of time of my life. But nevertheless, the point was,
You learn.
you learn, and you're not going to get good. You're not going to become excellent at anything that you give yourself mulligans on.
Second chances. Yeah.
No mulligans.
Or third chances for that matter. Yeah.
You want to become great? No mulligans.
That's right.
Learn to process the moment you're in the moment you're in it.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay. So
sorry. I feel like that was a word from heaven.
The Nazarim who believe,
to hear that.
Powerful. So the Nazarim who believe that Messiah will return, you've bought into the gaslighting of the Jews. There is no difference than what you believe in the Jews. Now you say that's not true. I believe in his first coming in the atonement. Fine. But your logic ends you in the same place.
In the same place.
You share the same raison d'etre of the rejection of the Messiah's return or the setting up of the kingdom. The Jews say there's no peace on earth. There's wars more than there ever was before. You're parroting the same thing. I thought you were supposed to be kadosh and separate from the unbelievers.
I believe it's worse than that, guys. I don't think it's that innocent. I'm sorry. It's either gather, you scatter. And if you are a futurist, you're a scatterer. Because we love the
futurists. We love the futurists.
I was a futurist. I continue to believe that way for a long, long time. It is evidence. It is the eye opening. It is his name, by the way. So you don't get free from Egypt until his name comes in. And you already knew his name. He had to remind you, okay? By my name, Yahuwah, have they knew me. It wasn't.
I not known?
Was I not known? Not a was a no. I wasn't known. It was I not known?
Was I not known?
Did they not know? Don't tell me again how they didn't call upon the name of Yahuwah when we see it right there in the 4th chapter of the book of Genesis.
Come on now.
How are you going to tell me they didn't know his name? How are you going to tell me Enoch didn't know his name? Ooh,
Right.
Come on, preach to me. Okay.
Excellent.
So they're scattering. That's what's happening with futurism, is a scattering effort. What for? To re-diaspora everybody, to repopulate. And if you don't believe me, just go look into the orphan trains. That's a literal effort, a deliberate and specific effort to spread people all over the globe intentionally. And that's a documented historical fact that we have within the last 150 years. So that's just a recent version of that. We continue to see. Why, folks? Because scattering is to their advantage. You guys being disconnected, you guys not being united, you guys being scattered all over the place is to the advantage of your enemy.
Could we also call it spiritual redistricting?
This is why he said in Jeremiah 23, woe to the shepherds who scatter.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I mean, to me, we can call it spiritual redistricting. Redistricting.
Yes.
You take
And
them
it's
out
all
of
in your ruach. It's not
them out.
natural.
You take them out of the fulfillment camp, which makes you a truster, not just a believer, but a truster, someone who trusts every comma of Yahusha that he said, into camps which are spiritual redistricting. Well, what is redistricting? It's the shifting of for political reasons.
It's
like
the
this-
real government of Yahuwah. What do you think this is for? You're supposed to be getting together to be the government of Yahuwah. Where's the government of Yahuwah in South America?
Before I forget, if you allow me, before I forget. So people who deny the return in the 1st century, when Yahusha said it had to happen, the wedding, the judgment, everything, the blood of Abel, all the blood being vengeance. Let me get this thought down. So when we believe that, we are gathered in his camp. When we don't believe that, we remain scattered. That's not exactly what I wanted to say, but that's what popped into my head. Go ahead. I'll remember. While you start talking, I'll remember what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and jump in. Just New York me. So you're good. When we saw the restoration, for example, of the 12-stone altar, why did he have us do this? I'm still unpacking this amazing thing that he had us do, because of how much we've learned as a result of not only going through the process of doing it, right? So come on, how do you not learn through that process? Right? You're going to learn. You're going to respect. You're going to be afraid a little. There's a lot you're going to go through, okay? But then on top of that, what we start to unpack and start to realize is that these lies that were told to us, this level of manipulation, this level of gaslighting was not lightly done. This was meant to sort of enslave mankind when he's already given us complete freedom. He already gave it to us, already paid for it, already sealed it, fulfilled all the promises. It's yay and amen. There is nothing further to debate. This is why when those of us who obey his word and do what he tells us, not because we're flawless, but because he's called us to righteousness.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. Okay. So we move to righteousness. And what now occurs is when we pray, my prayers don't stop at the ceiling. They go before the throne. And I get my rain. That they are now sitting in Douglas, Arizona going, this is not normal. They don't have an answer now for this. And I'm like, this is now 5 years of it. And when are you guys going to realize that the atmosphere has changed? This is not one rainstorm.
Hallelujah. Yeah.
It's not one little thing. It's not we had a little extra water this spring or something. No, this is going on 5 years now.
Beautiful.
Okay?
Yeah.
where he continues to bring double-digit rain. We just had nearly 2 inches in January. That doesn't happen here, folks.
It does now.
It does now, but it didn't happen up until this. Because you see, when the government of Yahuwah
Amen.
is seated on Kadosh land,
Come on.
when the government of Yahuwah comes together and
Yes, sir.
2 or 3 are gathered in his name and they declare the word of Yahuwah, the
Amen.
word of Yahuwah is yea and amen. And when
Amen.
we stood here on Kadosh land and said, this sky painting needs to stop. And they have not painted our skies since. And now Arizona's passing a law. Who's the government of Yahuwah?
Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
Who is the government of Yahuwah? They don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. They're being led. They don't even know where they're being led. Next thing you know, have a president standing up and saying, if you're going to build an AI, you better build a power center. We just patented Living FAQ because they're spending all kinds of crazy amounts of money on power, and they're going to bankrupt all the nation. And funny, we didn't ever go send a note to the president. We didn't say nothing to him. We didn't call him because we know who we are.
Amen.
And we know that if we just stay seated in our place in heavenly places,
Amen.
at 4,200 feet, where sometimes we're inside of a cloud, we live in the cloud.
That's right. That's right. The
I'm telling
Parousia.
you right now, I continue to see it. And
See, the Parousia is an abiding presence. The Parousia is not just a historical pinpoint of 70 AD. Like you just said, the Parousia is the abiding presence of the
Come
king.
on, somebody.
I want to make that very clear. If you look at the Greek, it does not mean second coming. It means the king who appears, listen, abides with the people and the people abide with him. It's an abiding presence.
Now, listen carefully to what he just said, because this guy ties to what the king said. He said, if ye abide in me, and my word abides in you, ask ye whatever you will, it shall be done unto you. I ask Messiah, my king, for a pittance compared to what he handed me. And he is my witness. He knows I asked for one thing. I asked for a one of something. And he gave me 7,000 of the thing I asked one of. I asked for one. In humility, I said, Father, can I just have one? And he said, you can have 7,000. Yada Yahuwah.
Is that what happened to Solomon?
Yada Yahuwah.
Yeah, he asked
Solomon.
He asked for one and he got 1,000 wives. Are you talking about patents or wives? Because I don't want to get you in trouble with Mindy. Are you? Are you talking?
Don't you dare, man. Don't you dare, you naughty boy.
You got to clarify. You got to be very specific.
I'm talking about the fact that I stood here and prayed because of this.
Make sure that people know you're talking about patents, not wives, okay? Because I don't want to get you in trouble. You're in enough trouble already. Okay, you don't want to go from 300 square feet to 200 square feet.
You ain't lied yet, pal. You ain't lied yet. Let me tell you, happy spouse, happy house, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Keep your wife going. But no, seriously, folks, in all seriousness, I asked, I petitioned him, and his response was overwhelming. He continues to be overwhelming. And yet he leaves the unbeliever in this state of unbelieving. In other words, those who are, just like he said in the book of Revelation, let them continue in this behavior. You be set apart. You are proving your set apartness in a hostile environment. I remember sitting, I'm going to say the last thing I'm going to say about this. I remember sitting in,
you're on a roll.
I was sitting in Tiberias, and they pulled me in because they were going to try and deport me. I didn't realize that was happening, but that's basically what had happened. And I'm suddenly sitting in what basically looked like a police station. I'm like, whoa, I think I got arrested. Here, I thought they just wanted to have a chat. Apparently, they wanted to have a chat while I put me on a plane, right?
Oh.
And I'm there with my kippa and my tzitzit, okay? And there's this Jewish guy, and he's looking me up and down, and he's being very disrespectful. And I don't even know what's going to happen to me at this point, but I sure wasn't going to sit and take that. And so, sure enough, my landlord was an attorney, so she got me out of that jam. And then we began our case against the state of Israel, where they had to recognize that I am, in fact, a descendant, right? So they had to stay my deportation lawfully. As the judge said, you can't do that. I quote, he has rights, end quote. So they unfortunately had to deal with those rights, which I think was Yahuwah's purpose. But I remember sitting there in that office that day, and the man's looking up and down and looking at my tzitzit and so forth. And I looked at him and I said, you know something? You think it's easy being in America? Here, your stores close. Here, everything is shut down. If you want to break the Shabbat, you have to work hard. You have to travel 50 miles or something. You got to go all out of your way. Not in America. In America, you got to want it bad. Okay? You got to want it bad. You got to be willing to wear your tzitzit even when everybody is laughing at you. And you've got to go keep Shabbat when everything's happening on that day. Everything. They schedule everything for that day.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy as here. Here it's easy compared to there. And he never said another word to me. He was like, yeah. Because they envy the Americans, right, in their lifestyle, but they didn't think about that. And when I said it, he was like, yeah, you're right. Here it is easy.
So while we were laughing and whatnot, I remembered what I wanted to say. And this is a very important point. Very, very important. I knew it would come back to me. I knew it would come back to me. As soon as you started talking and then we got
That's what I said. You said New York.
laughter, it would come back to me. So here's what I wanted to say, and this is very important. Seriously. So the gaslighting we talked about in terms of peace on earth, no peace on earth. The gaslighting around the church fathers, the creeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Christian Talmud, the creeds, the church fathers, right? It's not just what we think.
That's right.
Who were you talk about this all the time. Identity is everything.
Yes.
Okay. We cannot, the average Joe and the average Nasarim, if you ask them who the church fathers were, they were Origen, Justin Martyr, Polycarp, Chrysostom. Watch this.
Grandchildren.
Wait, watch this. The church fathers were all Nasarim, Torah observant, number one. Number two, they were resurrected into the unseen realm. So obviously there's no documents. Nobody saw anything. They were resurrected into the unseen realm, which is where the living Yahusha lives. Yes, he doesn't live in Tel Aviv. He lives in the unseen realm, right? And then the living were changed. So every church father who were truly Nasarim, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Every church father believed that Yahusha would return when? In the century when the blood of all the martyrs would be avenged. They all believed that he would return in that century when the blood of all the martyrs from Abel to Zechariah would be avenged. So you've been gaslighted because you've been told the church fathers begin in the 200s and the 300s and the 400s. As Yahuwah lives, every Nasarim, Torah following, you want to call them church fathers? Have at it. Everyone believed the second coming was time-stamped for that specific generation.
That's right.
So not only we have the gaslighting of the peace on earth, okay?
Yeah.
We have the gaslighting of who are the church fathers. Do you realize do you realize we can have 74 broadcasts on that? Because if you don't got the identity right.
Right, exactly.
Every person you read about in the scriptures believed in the first century return of Yahusha. Don't you dare come to me anymore, you skeptics, and tell me about the church fathers. Because from now on, if we're going to talk about the church fathers, we're going to talk about the 12.
And
Who
not only
all went,
that, but
who
stop
all went
quoting
into the, excuse me, who all went into the unseen realm of resurrection life in the first century.
Amen. That's right. And why are we listening to the great grandchildren of foolish virgins who didn't listen when they were trying to evangelize them? They were trying to get them saved. So the very fact that they were here, hey, we're here, means this is your second chance. This is your chance. This is it. And you get to come through the gate. How? With obedience. So once again, we circle back to the same thing. We circle back to obedience. We circle back to adding to the assembly, such as should be what? Saved.
Yeah.
So again, if you didn't get into the assembly, you didn't make it into those gates. I said you didn't make it into those gates because you didn't think that was important. But then you want to make it into the other gates.
So I have a question for you.
I'd say they're one and the same, folks.
Yes. I have a question for you about the gate. This is not a setup. It's just a revelatory procedure here.
Amen.
Think of me as a dentist. So the garden was evacuated. Melachim were put on the eastern gate to keep fallen man back from the Kadosh HaKadoshim, right?
Amen.
And the set apart place, right?
Correct.
We've been told that when the New Jerusalem descends out of heaven, Revelation 21, verses 1 through 2, and Yahushua rose from the dead and returned in 70 AD, then now the 12 gates are open, and the Garden of Eden is being repopulated with every saint of all the centuries from 70 AD forward, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now here's a question. Did anybody enter the New Jerusalem before 70 AD? In other words, the answer is yes. Enoch, in the book of Jubilees, says that he was the high priest of the Garden of Eden. So it not only tells you in Genesis 5 what Yahuwah did with Enoch, it tells you where he took him. He's been in the garden from the day he was transformed. And that's in the book.
Now understand something here, folks.
That's in the book of Jubilees.
A couple things that you need to understand here. Can you see everything? Real quick. Can you see everything? The answer is no. Our visual acuity is very narrow spectrum, very narrow. So even on earth, you cannot see everything. Elisha had to pray for his servant to see what was already there on the side of the mountain. It didn't come because he said it. He opened eyes so that his visual spectrum would expand temporarily to include the spirit realm for just a moment, so that he could see spiritual bodies on horses ready to attack. Okay, so ready to defend the saints. Beautiful picture of the fact that we live in a multi-dimensional world and a multi-dimensional experience going on all the time. So I happen to be in Portal, Arizona. You can't make this up. The only state that has both the alpha and the omega of the English language in the, I would say, captain nation of the English language.
Right.
And he puts us on the East Gate line, and he says, there, put it there. That's a good spot. Put my name there. This is where I want to put my name. Right here. Right here. Yep, put it here. Yep, right on this line. Put a flag on. Okay, great. Why is he doing these things? He specifically does things for a reason. We may not even fully understand it. Adam sure didn't fully understand it. He was living in Eden, and he didn't fully understand it. Okay? So we can sometimes be in the midst of what he's doing and not fully get it.
But Jubilees is multidimensional. But like you said, multidimensional. But Jubilees says that while the Moriah temple was standing, and they went from incorrupt to corruption, right? They became a corrupt priesthood. Enoch, simultaneously, now get the power of this, Enoch was ministering as the true high priest in the Garden of Eden. No doubt waiting for John the Baptist. No doubt waiting for Yahusha. But that lineage was somehow kept alive. It literally says that Enoch was in the New Jerusalem
Yep.
once he was taken. So Genesis 5 tells you he walked with Yahuwah, he pleased Yahuwah, and he was taken. But Jubilees, the little Genesis or the little Torah, tells you where he was taken. So even back in Enoch's day, those inside the gates, at that time there was one, right? Kept the faith, kept the priesthood. He kept everything going. And then once Yahushua returned in 70 AD and we were raised, people say, where were they raised to? Another realm. There was no writing, there was no scrolls, there was nothing. They were with the master, and their focus was on angelic activity. It was no longer on transmitting human messages to humans, right?
Can you imagine walking around?
And by the way, nobody wants to talk about, except people like you that understand it, and me. Nobody wants to talk about why for 40 years, nada. When in the history of prophetic revelation, except the intertestamental period between Malachi and Matthew, which was ordained and common knowledge, other than the intertestamental period of silence, when did Yahuwah ever stop revealing truth? Moreover, why would apostolic activity stop? Yahushua said, preach the gospel until I return. Did he not say this gospel shall be preached unto the kingdom as a witness, and then shall the end of the age be? Because he said at the end of the age that the gospel witness would stop. He said that in Matthew 24:15. This gospel shall be preached as a witness to the end of the age. And then the end of the age came. Now, once those 40 years were over, there was a new generation born. People say, well, how did people become believers after the 40 silent years? Very simple. They grabbed the Gospels. They grabbed the Pauline.
Same way you did. No. Stop this right there. No, stop. Full stop. Let me have this, please. The exact same way you were saved. You picked up a book. The same way. Somebody grabbed the book and preached it to you. The same way. Somebody started to shout. Somebody got filled with the Ruach. Somebody picked up a book and said, oh, this says, if we believe, this says this, and they started to preach.
Correct. That's but what were when the living were changed and the dead of all prior ages, nobody could go up to heaven, were resurrected. Now we're dealing with no believers left on earth, except, like you said, they picked up the book. But let me add to that. You said it very well. They picked up the book of the what? The true fathers.
That's right.
They didn't pick up fathers. The true fathers were not the Westminster Confession. The true fathers were not the Ante-Nicene Creed. The new fathers were not the fake Apostles' Creed, and they were not apostles. No, the real fathers were Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, Thomas, Peter. See? So people say, well, if everybody disappeared in 70 AD, after the 40 years of silence, how was the believing community reborn? Exactly what Apostle Peter said. The same way you were reborn. They picked up the legitimate documents of the legitimate church fathers.
That's right. And they started to preach them just like they do now.
And activity restarted. And
they started to gather and people started uniting. And of course, what they found, guys, again, is if you take something that has already occurred and you move it to the future without telling the people that you've done that, you find and discover this amazing manipulating tool because you keep saying it's up that way.
Very effective.
And it's extremely effective.
Very effective.
In manipulating mass amounts of people. So you know how they call it the opiate of the masses?
Oh, yeah.
They're not wrong about that. The lies are, in fact, an opiate.
Like a boy or a girl, and she says, do you love me? Well, let's just, at some point in the future, when I finish college and I finish medical school and all our bills are paid, just hang in there. We'll get to the point where we love each other. You can't push love.
Or we'll get married then. Right. There's a good one. Where did what?
You can't push love and intimacy into the future. Either you're in love and you're ready to be intimate, or you're not. If you push it into the future, love deferred makes the heart sick. Love deferred leads to the divorce court. You can put in any pejorative term or appellation in there that you want.
100% correct. You were already divorced before you even got married. The moment you crack that beforehand, you only set in motion an automatic process.
Peter,
Folks, covenant is nothing to be played with.
but
Go
Peter,
ahead.
you see how everything you've been saying, it's more profound than we could ever make it profound. In other words, we don't accept Yahushua's return because the church fathers said this. Well, what happens if we have the wrong church fathers? What happens if the church fathers are missing because they've been they're in the spirit realm now?
We're gone.
Okay, so I don't accept Yahushua returning in the first century because there's no peace on earth. But what happens if Yahushua said there will be wars and rumors of wars till the end of time, and you've got to be in the assembly inside? In other words, every paradigm, as you said, was shifted on us by governments that are not Isaiah 9:6 and Isaiah 9:7
right.
governments. It's mental manipulation.
Yes.
We think the manipulation ended with the Torah. So the church doesn't keep Shabbat, and we do. Ha ha ha. All of our understanding is fully restored, and we're no longer being gaslighted. Poppycock. Poppycock. 1 out of every 26 verses in Scripture is about the return of Yahushua and the kingdom of Yahuwah in the heavenly realm. Did you realize that? One out of 26. Right. So you've been gaslighted at least
26 times.
At least.
Yep. And not only that, but you guys aren't one of the things that we keep pointing out, and David and I can, David, thank you for being with us today. One of the things that we keep pointing out, and we keep saying it not to be mean or to poke at anyone, but to say there are no lenders. You must review empirical evidence. Yahuwah does not lie. Okay, so if he says this is what the blessing looks like, and you look at Deuteronomy 28 and can list it, I'm not going to go all into this, then you can see what the blessing looks like. So what are you seeing? And if you can't discern that, no one can help you. You got whirlwinds going through. You got things happening, judgments falling left and right. Judgment centers are set automatically in earth. Earth is automatically going to respond in judgment. It's Correct. Automatic, folks. So you're in an auto system.
Correct.
And you have to process through to reach your shalom. That shalom comes in obedience, with humility. If you humble yourself, he lifts you up.
The protected are blessed. The protected are blessed.
Right.
And the protected are sheltered. And the protected are set apart. It's very simple.
So now when you're absent with the body now, since that has occurred, since we have now the completion of the work, now when you are absent with the body, you're present with him. And why I said that visual acuity element is because, you know, you have cars now that they're driving them through cemeteries, and they're seeing all kinds of activity around their car. We live in a dimensional world that you don't fully grasp. And there's a lot in the scripture that is hinting at that, right? It's telling you. But in terms of really being able to process it from this side of the veil, it's very difficult. So there's a lot of his hints.
So those who were resurrected in the first century, they were resurrected into a different realm, not the physical.
That's right.
Now, proof of that is this: Matthew 27. When Yahushua rose, many of the martyred saints rose with him, right? And they appeared to many in the holy city. Well, where are they? They're no longer physical. They're in a different realm. So what would make people think that we, who are part of this, not the first resurrection, because we didn't rise in Matthew 27, that we're going to be physically resurrected, but they who were the first fruits, with the first fruit, singular, who had the highest honor, they were the martyred of the Tanakh. Those who rose in Matthew 27 were the martyred of the Tanakh, right? Well, where are they today physically? Answer: nobody listening can find them. Therefore, even those who were seen at one time are no longer seen in physically resurrected bodies. I want you to think about it.
Seen at one time.
At one time.
Their appearance. Okay, so this is very important, because how many know that you can go to jail for failure to appear? Just saying. And men are commanded to appear before him 3 times a year. And these are feast windows, windows of the Shamayim. Okay, so think of them as entry points, right? Or places where the Berakah and the Kavod, the Tapara of Yahuwah comes through, right? So what is it that we're supposed to be doing? We're supposed to be in the right place at the right time with the right heart and the right garments on.
And that's all part of being in the assembly. And I want everybody to understand, based on Colossians 2, Paul said, I'm worried about you. You're giving heed to pagan times, pagan days, pagan months, pagan years. He's saying the reality is Messiah, which is a shadow of things to come. Because at the time Colossians was written, it was 40 years up the road. Not 40 years, sorry, 20 years up the road. But once the kingdom has come, we're no longer under shadows. We're in the reality of obedience. We are now in the reality of obedience, meaning the only people expected to keep the feasts and the Shabbat are people that are already positioned within the gates. And then we go to a different level, or a different what was the word? A different, no, not long realm, a spiritual realm. But first, because we're practicing it in this realm, we will practice it in that realm. But the practice begins in this realm, is my point.
That's right. And it needs to, because as you can see, when you start in paradise, you have only one direction you can go. So not good. So we already started in paradise and went this way. So now going this way, what are we learning? In this process, you zoom out and get the panorama, it makes sense. You're like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't want betrayal either if I'd been through what Yahuwah's been through. I wouldn't want another, Lucifer on my hands. I wouldn't want another. So I want them to go through a process so that by the time they do reach this place, they're so grateful and so thankful, they never want to go back through that again. Doesn't that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that we would have an appreciation for what we're being given.
Yes,
and that appreciation only comes through seeing, well, the opposite.
I mean, since we're on the subject, before I forget, because we're throwing out a lot of nuggets today. In 1 Thessalonians 4:17, where it says, we who remain, 70 AD, we who remain, Paul expected to remain to the coming of Yahuwah. He said, we that remain, not you guys, audience relevancy, we that remain until will be caught up. Now, that word caught up is harpazo, which has been mistranslated rapture. If you look up the word harpazo, it means seized. So when you were saved, you were harpazoed to Yahusha. He seized your heart. When you committed your walk to Yahusha, you were harpazoed. You were seized. It doesn't mean it is without direction. In other words, it's a seizure by the Spirit, sin, or a-directional. The word catching up is not in the Greek. Let me say that again. This is important, right? The word harpazo, mistranslated catching up in the Greek, is the word up is not in the Greek. It's in the Greek. It's not even implied. For instance, in Acts chapter 8, when Philip was transferred from Zotis to this place, or from this place to Zotis,
right. Say it.
The word was he was seized by the Ruach. That could be a kick in the butt.
Yep.
It could be a push. It could be a directional guidance. It didn't mean he went up. Right?
That's right.
So when you got saved,
it's a figure of speech.
Your heart was raptured by, for, to, and through the Ruach. That's what that word harpazo means. It does not mean a separate rapture, separate from the resurrection. It's part of the resurrection.
Right.
Okay. Now, it just so happens that in that verse, those who were changed wound up in a different realm, in the heavenly realm. But it doesn't have to mean up. It could mean seized downward. It could mean seized sideways. You know, Peter, Yahuwah put us together, and I am harpazoed to be in ministry with you. I am fully seized and committed. I am fully seized and committed to be in ministry with you. That is harpazo. That's what the word harpazo means.
That's a great point. Great way to say that. Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said. And guys, to wrap this a little bit here, so we come to an end, this is empirical evidence. And even in the absence of activity is empirical evidence. That was one of our points today, is that we must zoom out and take in the panorama and say, oh my, we missed some things. And now as a result, we're now reviewing the empirical evidence, like many of you are, looking
Yep.
around Earth, seeing burnt buildings that you thought was a mountain. It looks, now it's a building. What? Wait a minute. What is this? You're seeing structures that we don't have the technology in our present modern era. Baalbek, a good example, where we couldn't reproduce these structures. So we're all asking new questions as we walk around Earth, right? And this is a wise thing to do, because now you're going to come into the truth.
Because you mentioned empirical evidence, this is what I want our listeners to do. If you just sit there and say, great podcast, you're not going to benefit, okay? This is what I really want you to do. Take a pen and a paper, write this down. What Nazarene believing Christian testimonies, documents, apocrypha, pseudo-apocrypha, I don't care, small apocrypha, smallpox, I don't care what kind of document. I want everybody to go online or go to your local library, and I want you to return to me next week with a list of any apostolic or evangelistic activity or any documents from the year 70 until Origen began to write in 110, and Justin Martyr,
That's what I have. I have 70 to 110.
Origen in 180 and Justin Martyr in 110.
Yeah.
So I want, come back to me. And so instead of saying we're wrong and all these, and these guys are out on a limb, they're crazy. Okay, fine, fair enough. I want you to explain how apostolic ministry disappeared from the earth when Yahusha wants the saved to be saved in every generation except one. Well, what happened to the tools of Yahuwah, to the mouthpieces of Yahuwah in that generation? 40 years is a generation. Come back to me next week and show Peter, everything regarding activity or documentation of the gospel for those 40 years. And then we'll revisit the evidence, because Apostle Peter just told you the silence is the empirical evidence.
It is empirical evidence. It is.
So I challenge anybody to bring us apostolic activity and or documentation of activity, unless they started disobeying Yahuwah entirely. In other words, the only other alternative, other than the resurrection into a different realm, is they all decided to disobey Yahuwah. They all converted to Zoroastrianism, or they all renounced the Tetragrammaton, and they all became priests of Baal. If you're prepared to make that argument, posit that all the believers in 70 AD all converted and became priests of Baal, please bring the evidence.
It's a compelling, it's absolutely damning evidence. If you are on trial and this is the kind of evidence that's being brought, it's going to be difficult to overcome that. And so how would you explain, you were supposed to be there from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock? 7 to 11. 70 to 11, 110. Yeah, you were supposed to be there, and there was nobody there. How do you? Where's the log? Where's the activity? Okay, and if you were a watchman, where's the watchman? Huh? Where are the watchmen? There are a lot of things that occurred in that 40 years. Where are the watchmen? Where are all the things that you would normally see?
Right. Yeah, you know where all the church fathers were? In a different realm.
In a different realm.
And every one of the church fathers believed in the first century return.
That's right. And what you guys are actually seeing in churchianity is church grandchildren, and the grandchildren of those who didn't disappear. Or maybe the ones that did disappear, but they're still
here. Say that again, brother. New York.
So be careful what you're following, because these are the apologists who were trying to make themselves look better after having been left behind.
You're listening to grandchildren.
You go, whoa, we are listening to the Left Behind kids? No,
how many of your grandchildren support the family? None. You're listening to the grandchildren.
We went back to the fathers, the actual fathers. Okay, and these guys to these naughty grandchildren who missed the boat. So, folks, I'm glad you got to sit with us through this, and I hope you good notes, and come back with questions. We're always happy when you guys ask us questions, and that's how we learn. We ask
Absolutely.
hard questions, don't we, Sholiak?
We sure do. And we enjoy doing that.